football. Still loose. Picked up. Starling, the safety, racing to the end zone. Jawanza Starling of SC for the touchdown. An 80-yard fumble return for a touchdown.
Hi everybody, welcome to our Week 9 preview of Pac-12 football along with the UCLA Hall of Famer J.J. Stokes. Roxy Bernstein with you. Glad you're with us for another edition. Before we look ahead at the games this week, let's take a look back at Week 8 and what we saw from the conference. In Oregon State, J.J. came away with a strong performance. Neutral site in Seattle against Washington State. The redshirt freshman quarterback, Sean Mannion from Pleasanton, California, 376 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, and a brilliant road performance by Oregon State.
Yeah, we saw this kid grow up overnight. He came in this year, and he's just gotten better each week. He had a problem with turnovers early on in the year, but he seems to mature each week, and it looks good. It also helps when you have Malcolm Agnew back at the running back, helping you out in the run game. So now he's getting his players back, and they're making plays. So this outlook for Oregon State looks a lot better.
So Mannion, Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Week, and I guess you can't give it to the entire Stanford offensive line, as the Cardinal ran for 446 yards on the ground as they put up 65 points in that primetime matchup against Washington. Another dominant performance from Stanford.
Yeah, I mean, what can you say? They do what they need to in order to win games. You think they're going to rely on Andrew Luck's arm, but you always forget about that offensive line led by DeCastro and Martin and that run game with Stefan. I mean, they have a bevy of running backs. But 446 yards of rushing is an outstanding job by not only the running game, but the offensive line.
Also last week in the Pac-12 Conference, California picked up their first Pac-12 win as they dominated Utah at AT&T Park, 34-10. Cal's defense was sensational, JJ, in the game, and they got good quarterback play from Zach Maynard.
Yeah, they did get great quarterback play from Zach Maynard. Obviously, he spreads the ball to Marvin Jones and Keenan Allen. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. But in addition to that, that Cal defense really held John White to 39 yards. After a week before, John White had 171 yards, which led his team to victory. Cal stopped the run and forced turnovers, and that was the reason why Cal won the game.
Let's shift our focus to Week 9 and the slate ahead for the Pac-12 Conference, and all eyes in college football will be on Southern California as USC takes on Stanford at the Coliseum. ESPN College Game Day will be in LA for the matchup, 5 o'clock Pacific time, Saturday night. Andrew Luck and Stanford against Matt Barkley and USC.
That's going to be one heck of a matchup. You take a look at the quarterbacks first off. You look at Luck and you look at Barkley. These guys are professional caliber quarterbacks. So there's going to be a matchup there. And then there's good. In between all that, you look at the entire team. And both teams are playing well. You take a look back at last week with USC versus Notre Dame. They created so many turnovers and they were able to get a victory. Offensively, they got the ball in the end zone. They scored, get the ball into Robert Woods' hands, and then you have to take a look at Stanford. They do whatever they need to do to win the game. I mean, you take away one aspect of their offense, they still have the other, which is the run game. If you take away the run, you're going to put it in Andrew Luck's hands, and I don't think most teams want to do that.
What do you see as the biggest keys to this matchup between Stanford and USC?
One of the big keys for me looking at USC, can they stop the run? When you run for 446 yards, that sets a precedent. You have to be able to stop the run if you're USC. And two, Monty Kiffin's going to have to devise a game plan to really stop the entire offense. He's a professional coach. He's coached for Tampa Bay for several years. Can he devise a professional scheme that might throw Andrew Luck off of his game? I think that's going to be a major key.
Well, coming up at 5 o'clock Mountain Time, 4 Pacific Time, Oregon State, fresh off the big win over Washington State. They're going into Salt Lake City to take on Utah, still in search of that first Pac-12 win. They played well non-conference. Their defense has been terrific, but they need to get more offensive production. Can that happen against Oregon State on Saturday?
I think it can. You have to look back at what they did a week ago with 171 yards rushing. That offensive line needs to run those same trap plays, open up those same quality running lanes so that John White can get through there and make some chunk plays. I mean, he was gaining 5 to 8 yards a play against Pitt, and now a week later he doesn't do anything. You have to look at that offensive line. And if you look at Oregon State, Sean Mannion, we just spoke about it a minute ago. He grew up, 379 yards and 4 touchdowns. Malcolm Agnew's coming alive. The passing game is looking forward, and it's going to be a fantastic game just because of that.
Well, also in Southern California on Saturday, a game that you can see on FSN Prime Ticket in Southern California with J.J. Stokes working on the broadcast. Southern California, Northern California rivalry continues. Yeah, USC Stanford's in L.A. on Saturday, but so is Cal and UCLA. This is really a big game for both programs because UCLA is still in the Pac-12 South race, while California inching closer to getting that bowl eligibility.
Yeah, you look at Cal and what they did this past week. It was an outstanding performance. Now, can they build on that? Can Zach Maynard lead this team? Can the defense stand up? They're number 2 in the Pac-12. Cal can get it done defensively. Where it stands for this Cal team is offensively. Can they eliminate turnovers? And as you know, when they eliminate turnovers, they have the potential to win any game that they face. So that's going to be the key for this Cal team.
Your Bruins, my Cal Bears. We got anything on the line?
A handshake. We have a handshake. We have a handshake.
Where's your confidence in your alma mater?
We have a handshake. But take a look at UCLA, what they have. They have Richard Brijo, a guy that everybody rallied around, and now he's hurt, and now Kevin Prince comes in. Can he gain the confidence of that offense? And I think that's the important measure right here when you look at this UCLA team. They need to believe in this guy to move forward offensively, and defensively, they're going to have their hands full. Can Dye and Shelton and Price and Hilliard stand up in the secondary because they have their hands full with Marvin Jones and Keenan Allen.
UCLA, of course, there was the unfortunate incident in the game with Arizona last Thursday night. They're going to be hit by suspensions for this game. How much will that affect them?
That definitely will affect them. Anytime you lose quality players on each side of the ball because of whatever reason, which we never condone that, but it's going to hurt this team because you have starters that are their best players and are in and aren't going to get that opportunity.
The Pac-12 slate on Saturday gets started at noon on FSN nationally as Oregon hosts Washington State in Eugene, and the Ducks keep it rolling. Even though they didn't have Darren Thomas or Michael James in Boulder last Saturday, they still came forward with an outstanding performance and crushed Colorado in Boulder.
Yeah, they did. I mean, you look at what has happened to this team. LaMichael James out, Darren Thomas out. You have Barnes step in. You have Kenyon Barner step in. And these guys pick up their play. There's so much depth for this Oregon team. They're really a hard team to beat.
And then the final game of the day will take place in Seattle. Another FSN national broadcast at 7:30 Pacific time. Arizona visits the Washington Huskies. And for Washington, they're trying to bounce back from that game at Stanford. Arizona's feeling good. Tim Kish era, they come off with a great performance against UCLA last Thursday night. They're going to try to build on it. They'll have some momentum going into Seattle.
They definitely will. You look at Washington really quick. I think for Washington, they need to develop a rhythm early and try to maintain that. They need to set that standard early, which they didn't do against the Stanford team. I think that's one key for them. Then you take a look at what Arizona did last week against UCLA. The defense stands stout. They ran a double flex eagle, which prevented UCLA from running the football. And then offensively, no question what's going to happen there. Nick Foles gets the ball to Kreiner 3 times for a touchdown, and the running game stands up. I think that's going to be a crucial part for this Arizona team to get that running game started.
Well, that's a look at the Week 9 slate of Pac-12 action. It should be another thrilling weekend. Pac-12 football with all eyes in the college football world on Southern California as Stanford, and the nation's longest winning streak, travel to the LA Coliseum to take on 20th-ranked USC in a matchup with College Game Day in LA. So for J.J. Stokes, Roxy Bernstein, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you right here next week for your Pac-12 football preview.